Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm glad that you're here, but I'm sad that you have to be here. It means that your life has been impacted by someone that you believe is a narcissist or you have verified as a narcissist. So today in this video, we are going to look at the 6 unmistakable signs that you have a narcissistic partner, and these signs should not be ignored. To begin, we'll have to dive into what a narcissist is and the 3 types. So the first type is the grandiose narcissist, which could also be called the overt type. And that is the one that you generally think about when someone brings up narcissistic personality disorder. That's the person that has like a grandiose sense of self, someone that wants to make all the conversations about themselves, just draws attention, draws admiration, that sort of thing. And they're just constantly looking and seeking for attention from others. The second kind is the vulnerable narcissist, which is also called the covert narcissist. So unlike the grandiose narcissist, these narcissists are a little bit trickier to spot. They are a little bit more modest in their approach. They seem like a little bit more fragile and less sort of high on themselves. They might have a lower self-esteem and they might play the victim quite a bit. They still possess that deep sense of entitlement and they still manipulate and exploit other people, but they do it from a more passive-aggressive way than the grandiose narcissist. Then the third type is the malignant narcissist, and this is like the person that has a combination of like antisocial behaviors. They sort of show a callous disregard for the rights and feelings of others, and they might engage in manipulative behavior. So now that we've got those 3 types of narcissists down, we can go back and look at the 6 unmistakable traits that you're dealing with a narcissistic partner. I wanted to touch on the different types first because, as you can tell, they show up in different ways. So there's no, list that you can just like check off and say, okay, this person's a narcissist. And it's also to varying degrees. So someone might not fit all of the criteria for a narcissistic personality disorder to be diagnosed by a professional, but they might still exhibit those traits or on some of the spectrum of those traits in your life and cause havoc and chaos. So they're not to be ignored either. So let's dive in. So being in a relationship is a beautiful thing, and you want trust, you want safety, you want to have deep and meaningful connections with others, and this is in no way trying to dissuade you from pursuing those very, very important goals in life, but it's just to help you navigate when you're dating or in a relationship, whether or not the things that you're seeing are okay, and if they're not validating your experience. So number 1 is excessive self-centeredness. So with the with the grandiose narcissist, you can see that sort of in them wanting to make everything about themselves. In the covert narcissist, it can be less pronounced. So it just means that they're wonderful at masking the trait. The covert narcissists are really good at masking this trait. And you might be fooled for quite a long time. So they might show up as dominating the conversation, correcting things that you've said, or telling you what you think, turning every topic back to themselves. And while it is natural for people to talk about themselves occasionally, a narcissistic partner consistently puts their needs and desires above others. Okay, and then number 2 is lack of empathy. So empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. And narcissists deeply struggle with this. In fact, they don't even struggle. They're not interested in understanding the needs or the desires or the feelings of other people. This is completely void from all three different types of narcissists. So they may dismiss or belittle your feelings and emotions. They leave you feeling unheard and invalidated. And they might like make fun of you for feeling a certain way, or they might say that you're exaggerating. And especially if you're like dealing with an illness or something like that, which was my experience, and them just saying, oh, well, so-and-so has that same illness or a similar illness and they're fine. They always dismiss how something is impacting you, and they just cannot understand how this is a trouble to you. Right, so it can be mind-bending to have an intimate partner treat you as if you don't matter and your feelings don't matter. And a healthy relationship should involve mutual empathy and support, and it should be a safe space for both of you to share your deepest thoughts and fears without feeling belittled. So that was number 2. If you're feeling like the other person isn't even trying to understand your position, and you're often ridiculed for having feelings or emotions, that is showing up because of the lack of empathy in the narcissist. Number 3, manipulative behavior. So narcissists oftentimes employ manipulative tactics to maintain control. The name of the game for them is control and power. And so manipulation is a big part of that. So they might use guilt to get you to do things that you wouldn't have agreed to in the beginning. They might use gaslighting, which we'll get back to, emotional blackmail, anything that they need to do to get their way. If you find yourself constantly second guessing your feelings or your actions due to your partner's manipulation, that is a red flag. So if you're starting to see a pattern of lies as well, you need to take stock of that and recognize that it's not a healthy trait or attribute of any relationship. So I'll get back to the gaslighting. So gaslighting, I know we throw it around all over the place, but it refers to, it was a play that was first debuted in like 1938, and then it was adapted into a film in the 1940s and 1944. And in the story, the husband manipulates the wife into believing that she's losing her mind by secretly dimming the gas lights in their home, and then denying that he was doing that. So he's accusing her of being forgetful and irrational when she expresses that she's noticed the dimming of the lights. So the concept gained wider recognition and was used outside of like theater context, to help people understand and become aware of emotional manipulation and the psychological abuse. So it's sort of become a metaphor for any form of manipulation that causes someone to question their reality or doubt their own sanity. Okay, so that is like a little bit of a history lesson on gaslighting. But if you find yourself, like I found in my relationship with a narcissist, like I would oftentimes say like, no, you agreed to this and I remember it, you know, we were here and doing this, and I felt like I always had to prove that something happened. And I would catch myself saying, you know, like when we have conversations, I should be recording them because you always say that this and that wasn't said. Or I went as far as getting him to send me emails when he agreed to something, just so I had it in writing. And I always felt like I had to prove that something did or didn't happen. I was always on edge because I never knew if he was gonna deny the reality or affirm it. So that really was unsettling, and that's exactly the goal of gaslighting. They want to throw you off. They want to keep you imbalanced so that they can maintain control. So if you are always wondering if you remembered right or forgot it, or maybe you in your memory twisted what was being said or whatever, that's what they're working towards, keeping you confused, keeping you in this like web of like chaos and uncertainty. So that is gaslighting. So number 4 is their constant need for admiration. So we see that with the grandiose narcissist, and I think that's the thing that was most sort of widely accepted as what a narcissist is, someone that's constantly in need of like attention and admiration. But it shows up in all of the narcissists. They have an insatiable need for admiration and validation. And that is what they call narcissistic supply. It's just sucking all that they can from everyone around them, because they have this black hole inside that will never be filled. And so they're just constantly trying to fill it, and in the process are just destroying the people around them. So while it's normal to appreciate and compliment people around you, a narcissist craves so much admiration, it can become exhausting, and it's very one-sided as well. And you can see this in sort of like their goals and aspirations. Like with my narcissist, all he wanted was like a legal practice, but he just wanted that position of power to be able to like help people and look a certain way and show up in the world with a certain title and have people come to him for advice and like crave his help. So you might find that a lot. Like they can either go into being a martyr, like not a martyr, but trying to be so helpful to people so that people are always talking about them and praising them and thanking them, or they could go into professions that make them like hard to dispose of and like valuable to the society and the community and all of that. And they're not doing it for altruistic reasons. They're doing it for that attention and admiration and having those certain letters after their name, just so that they can use that to get more narcissistic supply from the people around them, get the praise and admiration. So if it's in excess and you're finding it to be one-sided, and that you're constantly giving and giving and giving, and whenever anything good happens to you, you find that they try and deflate it, that's because they're trying to keep you low, and they're trying to always be high. And high, even if it has to destroy you in the process. So keep an eye out for that one as well. If your partner is not thrilled about accomplishments that you're making, and they're constantly trying to one-up you or get more out of you in terms of praise and admiration, consider if that's going to be something that you want, that dynamic in your life going forward. And number 5, lack of accountability. So narcissists rarely take responsibility for their actions. They deflect blame, they try and throw the blame onto other people, they'll refuse to apologize, and they minimize their mistakes. So from my own experience, this one was just like, I used to say it, like we need to start to listen to our own gut and listen to our own intuitions more. Because I used to say it, I would say, like, it's as if one day you just woke up and decided you're not apologizing ever again. Because that's what was happening. He would literally step on my foot and say, your foot shouldn't have been there. And, you brush it off. As a normal person, you brush it off and you say, oh, this guy's just joking. But when it happens repeatedly, and you recognize that pattern, this is not a joke. This is, they're using humor to mask their true identity of not taking accountability and never saying sorry. If they're late, if he was late for something, it was someone else's fault. if we had made a commitment, it was my fault for making a commitment. Like, it was just constantly deflecting and never having accountability for the things that he said he would do or promised to do or any of it. And in a healthy relationship, accountability is essential for growth and for trust, right? So if you agreed to meet at noon and your partner doesn't show up till 1 o'clock and they come and they're apologetic and they're genuinely like wanting to reconcile, then you can move forward with that person. But when they come and they just like gaslight you and blame you for making the appointment at a certain time and blame everyone around them except for taking accountability for themselves, that is a problem. And then I'll move down to number 6. So this one was from day one. And if you're dealing with a narcissist, you might also have this same experience. As soon as I say it, you might just like jump up in the air and tell me that this is your experience too. And it is the lack of agreeableness and word salads. So I put these two together in number 6 because they're similar, not the same, but similar, and I'll explain both. So the lack of agreeableness. Narcissists often exhibit a notable lack of agreeableness. This is a key personality trait for narcissists. They resist like compromising. They have no inclination to consider other people's opinions. They have a constant need back to the admiration, constant need for admiration, and that is what underscores this trait. They are prioritizing their own needs, desires, and viewpoints over others, and it makes it challenging for them to cooperate or be accommodating to anyone else. So this lack of agreeableness contributes to arguments over little and seemingly insignificant things, and it's frequently found in relationships with narcissists. So I remember at times wondering, why were we butting heads over things that were easily verified? Things like how much we spent on groceries in a month. And I felt like I had to prove that to him all the time. And even when I proved it, he was still just enjoying causing this like conflict and like continuing to disagree, even when the facts were in front of his face. Like, I remember looking at the sky and being like, wow, it's a beautiful blue, and him being like, no, it's not blue, it's purple. And when I was new in the relationship, I never considered that to be an issue. I just thought it was a quirky way that he was, and it was kind of fun to be a little bit combative. But after over 10 years of relationship, it just wears you down, it breaks you down. You just want peace so badly that you just try and get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, just so that you don't have conflict, because they will never agree. So you just stop trying to meet that person in the middle, and you just say whatever, yes, 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 to whatever craziness that they're engaging in, and you just go along with it because you just want peace. And so you shrink and shrink and shrink, and every day I shrank a little bit more. So if you, at the very beginning, you're seeing that like lack of ability to just flow with, and they're constantly like, it's just constantly like, you know, gears rubbing against each other that have no grease. It doesn't get better. 10 years in, and it did not get better. So if you can save yourself that decade, do it. They will not change. It will not be healthy for you. Get out. Okay, and a word salad. So word salads are like, the purpose of them is just to further confuse and confound the victims. Word salads involve using convoluted language, vague statements, shifting narratives to create chaos and undermine the victim's understanding of reality. So narcissists will just spew a tangled web of words and ideas, and they make it exceptionally challenging for their victims to engage in constructive dialogue or reach any sort of agreement. So I don't know if you've experienced that either, but you're in a conversation and you're like, I know we started here and now we're over here and I don't understand what happened in the middle. Like, what's going on here? If you're feeling confused and like lost after having a conversation with a narcissist, that is because they went in with this specific tactic, and it's the word salad, just throwing a bunch of like words at you, and oftentimes challenging words and putting them all together so that nothing actually means anything, and you're just left bewildered and lost, and they feel like celebrating inside because they've accomplished what they want. You're not actually moving forward on the discussion because you've just wasted all this time with all these pretty words that don't mean anything. So that's why I said the lack of agreeableness and the word salad go together, because at the end of it, you're trying to have a conversation with these people, you're trying to make deep and meaningful connections, or you're trying to make relevant decisions about your life, and after spend beating your head against this wall with them, having this conversation, maybe it's about buying a new car, maybe it's about having more children, maybe it's about what kind of cheese you want to buy for the party on the weekend. It doesn't matter. But at the end of the conversation, lots of words have been spoken, nothing has been said, and nothing has become clearly accomplished. So that is the end of my 6 traits that you should never ignore if you're dating someone that you believe has narcissistic personality issues on the spectrum somewhere. If there's anything else that you think of, throw it down in the comment section below. Tell me if I missed anything that you think is really important. Let me know if there's a video that you want me to make. This is a community and we need to help one another, because it was because of YouTube channels and other survivors that I was able to finally see the light and get myself out. If you need any support, reach out to me down in the comment section. I'm happy to help, and I wish you a wonderful evening and just peace and blessings going forward. Bye, guys.